I want to try something a little bit unusual with these halftone stencils. I want to try using colors that are different from CMY and K. Now I've just used an approximation of the CMYK stencils so far, the colors anyway. I'm just kind of guessing at it. I'm kind of taking what I think looks like cyan, what I think looks like magenta, what I think looks like yellow. Yellow is the easier one to get. But I want to do this. I want to do this Shakira stencil. This is the yellow layer. I want to do this in a light green and a light red just to see what the difference will be. I think it will be somewhat natural looking, but I think it'll have a different feel, a really different feel to it. And I think it'll maybe open up my eyes to what I can do with slightly more creative stencil here. Let's just do the colors. Let's make this super light. Like what happens when you get a box of cereal and it's gone through the color process and the color process wasn't just right. You know, every box that they print has a test pattern on it. It has, you know, where you can see the pink and, you know, the magenta, the cyan, the yellow, and the black. And sometimes the black isn't dark enough. It's like muddy brown and the whole box doesn't look right. Or sometimes the yellow is kind of greenish looking and the whole box doesn't look right. But, you know, this is our image. We can do with it what we want to. So we can make it look a little bit different, a little bit crazy. Okay, so that's the green, and I want to do a red. I want to do like a light green and a pink, like maybe slightly darker pink combination here, and then a black on top to see what the difference will be from the one where we did before, where we pretty much tried to use this cyan, magenta, yellow combinations. Okay, so we did the green here. I'm looking for the next layer. I'm looking for is a layer that's like this. I'm kind of rotating around the color palette a little bit. I'm not using the exact opposite, but I'm rotating it a little bit. And part of the reason I'm doing that is because this particular stencil didn't have a cyan component, so I'm rotating the image towards cyan. Like the yellow has become a yellow-green, and the magenta is going to become more of a pure red. It's going to be a light red, almost a pink. Yeah, I think that's good. I might, let's try this. Just going to chisel it up here. Does it look like Christmas? I don't know. Red and green. Could be interesting. I do very little with these halftone stencils. I'm doing very little variation from side to side, from angle to angle. If I wanted to just be super clever about this, I could take this red here and I could make it bright red, and I could go down to this very specific, very close in cap, and I could just do that. You know what I'm doing? I'm making the lips red, right? Okay. Super clever. Well, we'll see if it's super clever. I don't think it's going to turn out to be so clever. Let's peel that off. Okay, so far, nothing's going on here. I'm not seeing, it's not got that weedy color that I was looking at last time, but I definitely see some lips taking shape here. Let's do that darkest layer and see what happens. There we go. Now you don't rotate black, like black stays black all the time. It's kind of at the top of a pyramid. The other three colors can rotate around, but the black stays in the same place. So I'm gonna just again, oops, I was going to say chisel, but it wasn't. This is going to need those same bridges put in. Again, what we're doing here is we're playing with the color that we're using in the CMYK or halftone stencil process. Because halftone doesn't need to be CMYK, it could be different colors, as you can see. All right, what does this look like? This looks like a brunette. I see green and red together, and the colors are mixing together, and they're making me see brown. They're making me see a darker hair color, a more chestnut hair color. I think that's right. And the skin tone is a little less realistic than it was in the previous picture, which I'll drop in here to show you to compare with. But again, to really make this look nice, I need to hide the bridges. Not every bridge, just the ones that look super blocky, super ugly. Not too many bridges in there. Okay. All right. What happens if I do something just totally stupid with the color? Like what happens if I use a different color background and I try to do something like, what if I try to paint this thing on a black background? What happens then? Well, for one thing, I don't have a black. I don't paint the black. I just paint the other two layers. I'm kind of curious. What will it even look like if I did a yellow layer and a pink layer on top of black? Well, something I know that, for one thing, I can just look at what's here. I can tell you that if this is black, then this part here is going to be darker than this part here. And that's going to look wrong because it's going to look like she's got a dimple in her head. So I don't even know if I want to try that. If I had the cyan layer, I think I would try it. You know what, let's try that with the apple. Let's try that with the apple stencil because I think that might actually do something. Ding, ding. The apple stencil has color and it has represented all three layers, even though one of the layers has only got that cyan layer is very limited. Let's see. Here we go. We said we're going to paint it on black and see what happens. We have the green and the other. Let's see. We're not supposed to be able to do a 4-color process on black. The whole thing, the idea is that it's on white because you have white to reflect all the color and then you subtract the others. But let's just find out what happens here. I think I'm going to need to paint the registration marks in white. This is blue. I mean, cyan. There we go. Let's just do that. Shouldn't see a lot going on. That's that. Again, what I'm kind of thinking we might get here is an interesting effect. Not a, okay, this is the whole apple. This would be the magenta. Let's try that. This wouldn't typically happen in CMYK land because when you paint magenta over black, you don't get pure magenta. So that's one problem with this thing that makes it not really a realistic test. This should be the yellow, and again, this yellow's got a big chunk that sits right over on top of the magenta. When I faked my way through this before, I just did a shallower painting of the yellow. Again, I'm breaking the rule here by doing yellow after the magenta. But let's just do it full on over here. Okay. And let's do it full on here. But then let's just do it very light across the center. Oops, too heavy already, probably. All right. Wow, so that's, I painted all the layers. But I think this is going to look best if I just go back in one more time and just do the black, because then I have the shading. So even when I paint on black, I want the black layer, I want the K layer, because otherwise I don't have any really shadows to speak of. But I don't want to hit all that. I don't want to hit that with black. I just want it to be I think the only thing to do for this is just to go just to give it a very quick low pressure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That way we're going to be left with brighter color here, brightest color right there, and darker color around the edge. I just don't want to go in. I don't want to go in and paint like a painter with a brush anything in a halftone stencil. Ooh, cyborg apple. Okay, so I knew it wasn't supposed to work. That should be white. That should be the brightest. That should be the brightest part. So this does not work this way. Always need to start with white, because starting with white allows the black to come in and provide the shading. All right. Is there anything else we want to try here?